Hello everyone, now I had another challenge idea like with the bow challenge in The Legend of Zelda. Now for this one we're going to be seeing what is the lowest percentage that you can get in Hollow Knight. Now, some things that need to be clear are the rules for this challenge are going to be is that we're not allowed to collect any of the maps. We are not allowed to collect stag stations, charms, no mass shards or vessel fragments, none of the nail upgrades, none of that. Only required items. There is one stag station though that we are going to have to open to escape an area later, but that is the only time that that rule can technically be considered breaking. Now the required items we're going to need are the Mothwing Cloak, the Crystal Heart, the Mantis Claw, and the City Crest and the Luma Fly Lantern that you buy from Sly. So we also do need to rescue Sly later in the playthrough. But those are the only items that we are required to get. We don't need Yzma's Tear, the Mothwing, the Monarch Wings, none of that. So let's get this started. Okay, now with our rules set out of the way, let's get this started. Now we just start up the game like normal. I've already got a save file ready to go. Now this is actually kind of a fun challenge because there's a lot of things that you have to do in the game. And we could just skip over these cutscenes real quick. There's not really much to say about this. But this is a pretty fun challenge that I had a lot of fun with. It does get a little bit crazy, however, once we get further in. Now we drop into the King's Pass. And, well, once we get started, it's not really far in that we have to keep moving. Just getting through, like, the basic stuff of how to use your nail, enemies that are going to be in the way, how to deal with them, whatnot, what you can do and all that. And me taking dumb damage, because, yeah, it's going to be a lot of that. But either way, we just keep moving and getting through the game. Now, the only thing in the King's Pass that we're really worried about skipping is the Fury of the Fallen charm. That's really the only thing here that we need to worry about. As well as the Lifeblood Hearts, because I don't really plan on getting those either, as I believe that it doesn't up your percentage, but I believe it can. But as we drop down here, we continue on and eventually make our way to the Forgotten Crossroads, because it's not like much really happens as we get on with it. Now, our first thing that we need to go do is take down the False Knight, because, well, he holds the first pass that we need to get through, because we need the City Crest, and we are also forced to collect the Vengeful Spirit Charm to move on to Green Path. So as we keep moving on, eventually we do make our way to the fight with him, and as normal, we take him down, as you normally would. I'm about a good chunk through the fight though, and eventually we do take him down as he goes in, as we go in for the last hit, and finish him off. Luckily during this fight it wasn't too bad. I've gotten used to having to fight him, and fighting his stronger form in the dream world during the playthrough made this a lot easier even with the weakened stats. So yeah, kind of ironic how many times I died even the first time I, done this, but yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. Anyway, but we just continue moving on, and I actually made a mistake here because I forgot to collect the City Crest. Keep that in mind later, because I didn't realize it, and we're gonna have to backtrack. But as we rest at the bench and talk to the Snail Shaman here, we'll be able to collect our first power-up, and one of the few that we'll be able to collect is the Vengeful Spirit, because we're gonna need this in order to make our way to Green Path to take on Hornet and get the Mothwing Cloak. And once we finish up there, it's pretty much heading off and getting the last few things we need, and yeah, just continue moving on, because we do need to get a few extra things so that we could take down the Dreamers and defeat the Hollow Knight. Now, after a quick running through, we take him down, and eventually we'll be able to move on. Now, there is another charm that we can get in here, and if he would just, use his last enemy so we could just take him down, so I can get the soul to, kill him. There is that other charm there that we could use, but it's not like it's really a big deal to get it. But as we continue on, now that we've taken care of that enemy, it's time for us to head down to Green Path, as we keep moving on and slowly get to our destination. Now that we've taken care of him, we can continue moving on so that we can get to Green Path and eventually get to Hornet and take her on. Now, there's not really much interesting in Green Path. There's not so much that you can do other than opening a locked gate, and Zote, who I kind of just left to die. I already have both the Coliseum of Fools achievement and the Neglect achievement from a bunch of other playthroughs, but, But after a quick fight with Hornet that also was no trouble, we do get the Mothwing Cloak, and we also happen to have our first encounter with the Dreamers, who decide to show up. And after they tell us we can't break the seals, we're going to show them we can do it with next to nothing in our arsenal compared to what I did have and still struggled with. As you can imagine, this was actually pretty rough for me. But as we move on, we do need to save Sly because we need to get the Lumafly lantern that he sells at his shop, so we do need to take care of the Gruz Mother. Luckily, we don't need to get the shopkeeper's key in Crystal Peak, or else that would be another detour that we would have to deal with, which thankfully is not the case. But after a quick fight with the Gruz Mother, we can move on and save Sly from where he's sitting, but we do need to take care of the little Gruzes that pop out in this fight for some reason. Why this happens here, I couldn't tell you. But it is a little bit interesting, to say the least. As it's just like, you think the fight's over, but then it just continues going. But after taking care of that, we can head down here and save Sly, and that way we can unlock his shop up in Dirtmouth, and then continue on once we are able to get the Lumafly lantern. I don't know why I was saying that weird, but, you know. Sadly, though, now that we've saved Sly, we need to make our way into Fungal Waste, so that way we can go ahead and why did I say help? So that way we can move on and get the Mantis Claw, because we're going to need that if we want to keep moving throughout our adventure. Now, I did stop and rest at the bench there, which is why I took a quick detour to where Leg Eater is, but we do need the Mantis Claw, so I took a quick jump to Mantis Village. Now this is really the only thing here. We don't have any real need to bother with the Mantis tribe, because even though they do have a gate that leads into Deep Nest, we do have other ways to get there without having to really fight the Mantis sisters. So it's not really a big deal or worry to take care of. We just need to open up the gate, get the Mantis Claw, and leave. Leave them to their waves. That's really all that kind of goes on here as I take care of these enemies. Still though, it is kind of interesting as like how much of this game that you don't really have to deal with. So it is kind of fun. But as we continue on, we should be getting the Mantis Claw in just we'll get the Mantis Claw in just a second. We just have a few more enemies that just keep getting in the way. But once we collect the Mantis Claw, we're able to head off and head towards grinding to get the Lumafly lantern, because we're going to need that. Though I did come over here because now that we have it, we're able to head into the City of Tears and get the Dreamers. Now the one thing is I don't have a map for this playthrough, so even though we do need to go, as far as I know, you need to go over here to check about the Hollow Knight and the Dreamers and know about all that. But it may be something that is skippable, but as far as I know it doesn't add up to your percentage, so that's why I went ahead and did it. And this is where I realized you need the City Crest. And that I had forgotten it. So, after a bit of backtracking and me realizing that I am a complete idiot that has forgotten these things, I make my way quickly back to go ahead and collect the City Crest, only to be making my way back to the City of Tears, which took some time. But I did make a quick stop at Sly's shop so that way we could collect the Lumafly lantern after I did a lot of grinding to get myself to 1800 Geo. Because that thing is expensive. Sadly, we can't really buy anything else because it wouldn't be allowed in this playthrough because, well, it's a low percentage run. We do have to unlock this gate here, which there is another way to do it and get into Crystal Peak, but the only way to do that is either having the Crystal Heart or have the Descending Dark, which neither of which we are able to collect. Because getting the Lumafly lantern is either way a bit faster, and then you don't have to deal with a boss, so realistically it is less percentage-wise rather than getting and defeating the Soul Master and getting the Descending Dark that way. But as we make our way through Crystal Peak, we eventually get to where we need to go, and we just have to make it through a platforming section before we can collect our prize with the Crystal Heart. But then we'll be able to super dash and make our way and collect a few more items, such as the Dream Nail and whatnot. Now, as I slowly make my way through this pretty annoying platforming thing with all these lasers and everything, eventually we do manage to get there. But once we collect the Crystal Heart, we then have our super dash, which will allow us to actually get to a few areas, which will be very helpful in the long run. Meaning we don't have to worry about a couple of things, thankfully, and having the super dash is just really helpful most of the time. At least, too bad it's nothing like this Shine Spark in Super Metroid or any other Metroid games that have the Shine Spark, because, you know, kind of sucks not being able to just smash into enemies at Mach 2 and instead of taking a bunch of damage. But if we head down here, we are able... this is the wrong area. But we need to head to an area that connects to the Fog Canyon on the left side. Now, normally you would need Yzma's Tear to get there, or the Shade Cloak, which is hidden in the Abyss. But since we can't get either of those things, because that would up our percentage, we have to do a fun trick, which is honestly incredibly difficult to do. Now, this is a trick I got from a speedrun, but it actually took me a while to learn, so if you want to attempt this, here is how it's done. Is you gotta hug the wall with the Mantis Claw, and then hold the opposite button away from the wall that you're hugging. And this will allow you to super dash across, and I have a few failed attempts because it took me a while to actually get this down, but I did get it down pretty quickly after a bit of practice. I would recommend practicing this in a different file, at least one that you have like all the upgrades so that we're not sitting here taking damage if you have Yzma's Tear like I am, but eventually I do get it down. But once you get your head wrapped around the mechanics, you can actually manage it pretty fine, but as you can tell, I am having a lot of trouble because you have to get it perfectly. And I made it, but then failed with jumping up the wall with the Mantis Claw, so close, but it just takes me one more attempt. After my one more attempt. Like I said, this is a trick that is very difficult to pull off, but thanks to the speedrunning community, I eventually got it down. And here I stupidly decided, I've got 1 health, what's the harm in taking a death? And I finally managed to make it. And luckily, there is a statue here that'll replenish your soul, so if you are like me and you're starving for health, you can at least get the 1 back. You just gotta be careful as you make your way through Fog Canyon. Because, yeah. But eventually we do make our way to the teacher's archives, and this is where I realized I made a second mistake. I forgot to collect the Dream Nail before coming here. Luckily though, this is a breakable wall, so you don't have to make your way back through like I did. But as we make our way to the resting grounds, we eventually come across the Dreamers and are able to get the Dream Nail from the Seer. And I also made a second mistake here, is because we have the Crystal Heart and the Mantis Claw, there is a way to get to the resting grounds without opening the Stag Station like I did. But as we go on, because, well, as I'm trying to explain, there is a path under, right above where Salubra's place is, that leads into below the resting grounds and to the right side of the City of Tears. And that's how you can get there. But I had not realized I could do that at the time of this at the time I had recorded this, which is why I did it this way. I believe the percentage would go up either way, but I do believe if you go from Salubra's place or just above there, you would probably get a lower percentage than opening up the Stag Station to get back to Dirtmouth. But enough with that. We collect the Dream Nail, so now we're able to go ahead and take on the Dreamers that needed to be taken on. So it's time for us to head back to Fog Canyon and take on the Dreamer. But as all things are, I had to open up the Stag Station so that way I could continue on with what I needed to do, which kinda sucks, but at the same time there wasn't really much I could do here because I had no exit. This was the only way I could actually get out of here without resetting. Yeah. I probably could have done a save and quit, which may have been able to help me get out, but once again, I didn't know this was a method I had an option to, so if I attempt this again, or if you decide to attempt this, there may be more ways to actually get a slightly lower percent than I did, maybe by 1 or 2, but this is the percentage I got as I had gone through the game. But as we head back to the teacher's archives, we do have to face off against Umu. Now, this is where my problems kind of started hitting, is even though this isn't a difficult boss, it did take me a while to actually take him down because of how much weaker I am than the last time I fought him, and I suffered a good chunk of deaths on the way down, trying to get to Monomon. But as we slide down here carefully, if you do a crystal dash, you can actually hit this wall here and make your way up, and then you'll be able to get out without a problem. Which, thankfully, they decided to do it like that, because if you needed Yzma's Tear, that would suck. Well, since we were able to make it to Monomon without a problem, and thankfully not needing Yzma's Tear, we're able to go ahead and take out the first Dreamer, with the help of Quirrell, who was nice enough to let Monomon become one again, because for some reason he had her mask, which, realistically, I don't even understand how that makes any sense, but okay. I fell out the world. Yet somehow I just make these kind of mistakes. It's like, you know, it's just the things that happens. But still, you know, you keep working, you keep going, keep trying. Make it. But now we can quickly take care of Monomon, absorb her energy, and then we can get moving on to the next of the I was about to say teachers. Why was I going to say teachers? The next of the Dreamers. Couldn't remember the name for some reason. But it's time for us to keep moving on, so that way we could take out the last two, because all that's left for now is Hera and the other one. Lauren. I couldn't remember her name. But that opens up, and now the Forgotten Crossroads are going to become the Infected Crossroads, which is going to cause, well, next to no problem, because I realistically don't really need to have anything to do in the Infected Crossroads now. But that does open it up. But after a quick talk with Quirrell, it's time to move on so that way we can head for the next teacher. Now we gotta head back into the fungal waste, because that's gonna be where we get to our next destination, being Deep Ness, so that way we can go ahead and take care of Hera, because I wanted to knock this out as soon as possible. But I got a little confused as to where the entrance was. But as we drop in, as the floor decides to break open, we don't need to head off. Now, there is another path that'll get you a lot closer, but that requires doing another trick to get into the Queen's Garden, which I figured, well, going from an area we already have open to from the fungal waste all the way down to Deep Nest, even though it's going to be a bit of a further area, it's going to be less of an issue to go through. So as we quickly try and make our way through this bug-infested area, we slowly but surely make our way over to Hera's den. And we hit a hot spring on the way because I needed time to rest. And make sure I got health and mana back. But after a quick rest, we eventually managed to get all the way over to at least the starting area of the den. But we do need to still take on those other guys. Now the problem with this area is getting in and out without dying, because we can't really access the stag station because, well, then that would be adding to the percentage counter, which we're not allowed to do. I opened up the one in the resting grounds, but that one wasn't a pay toll. But still, like I said before, there's a ways around it. So yeah. But now that we're in the distant village, we can go ahead and have these weird, creepy bugs that for some reason end up dead capture us and send us off to where Hera is sitting. So yeah, let's just rest on the bench and then realize we're trapped. And as they slowly close in, oh dear, time for the real crap to start. If my hands weren't stuck to the bench, I would have grabbed my nail and taken them all down. But now that we're in the beast den, thanks to the help of those guys who are now dead, we quickly make our way to Hera and enter her dream, so that way we can take her down, absorb her energy, and then we can move on to taking down Lauren, who is sitting in the City of Tears. So yeah. Now that we have stomped Hera down, that's 2 out of the 3 dreamers that we have taken down. But a quick thing. Lauren is one of the dreamers, much like Monomon, that you're technically supposed to get an item before you get to the area that they're in. But I have my ways around that, and once again, thanks to the speedrunning community, it doesn't become much of a problem before I'm able to make my way in there. But with 2 of the masks released, the seal is breaking. which, well, leaves more of the crossroads to get infected, even though that's not what happens. But as we make our way back to the City of Tears, we're finally able to input the city crest, so that way we can get inside. And with the statue of Hegemold, which kinda doesn't make sense, but either way, we're now it's just time to head off. Now, there are a few things that we could do here, but as I said, that'll increase the percentage, so taking on stuff like the Soul Sanctum and trying to get more, what we have now is all we're getting. No more, no less. There isn't really a way to get less. Now, to get to the other side, like I said before, I forgot about the area that Salubra has access to, so I need to get to the Royal Waterways to open that up. But you need a simple key, which then I had remembered there was one sitting in the City of Tears that thankfully we have access to. So after quickly collecting that, instead of having to go all the way back to Dirtmouth and collect one from Sly, we're easily able to head into the Royal Waterways and go ahead and just quickly make our way through, so that way we can get to the right side of the City of Tears. Thankfully. And an extra good thing is we also don't have to worry much about the Dung Defender, because we just have to shoot through here with our Super Dash, or the Crystal Heart, whatever you prefer. Make a quick stop before we get to Eastman's Grove, and just continue with the path up. And then we'll be able to just quickly make our way to Lauren, and just make sure we got some health along the way, because there's going to be some enemies popping up. So I'll gotta be careful about that. But still, none of this is too crazy difficult, but we do have another boss that's coming up that is going to be giving me hell. So yeah. As we slowly but surely make our way up to the elevator to where Lauren is hiding. Now, you do normally need the Mothwing Cloak, but like I had said, thanks to the speedrunning community has helped me figure this out, you can just bounce off of that object in the background and quickly make your way up. But then we have a fight with the Watcher Knight. And something I had learned after this fight is there is actually a hidden area that lets you take them down, so you only have to face 5 instead of 6. And I suffered many a death trying to get through here. I wish I had known of that sooner, because I don't really think it would have increased the percentage, but either way, I took down all 6 of them, so haha, I am victorious. Either way though, it's not like it isn't impossible, as I proved it, but anyway, now that we've taken down the Watcher Knights, we are able to head off and take down Lauren, so then we can open up the Temple of the Black Egg and move on to go ahead and try and take down the Hollow Knight and finish the game with the lowest percentage possible. But now that we've absorbed Lauren's energy, it's time for us to head back to Dirtmouth and, well, technically the Forgotten Crossroads, but, you know, semantics. Either way, we gotta go all the way back up there, because that's the closest bench to the Temple of the Black Egg besides the one inside. But now that Lauren has been taken care of, the final seal has been broken. Time for us to head inside and, well, do all the crazy stuff, because, yeah. But as I make my way to the Temple of the Black Egg, it's time to open it up, now that the seal has been broken. And Hornet is apparently absent, but that's probably because I don't have the King's Brand or literally anything to get the Dream No More ending. So yeah. But as we super dash our way through, we are finally able to check the percentage that I got as I went through this whole crazy journey, which really only took about 6 hours to do, but you know. But as we check our percentage, Vessel though bound, you shall know this something. I didn't catch the rest of that. And that's the wrong button. Still getting that confused, but we managed to get through the game with only 16% completion. We don't even have any extra screens. We have 4 items, the Dream Nail, 1 spell, and a shit nail that can barely do anything. But there's still one more thing we can do before we can call this the real quit. Before we call it quits. We still have to take on the Hollow Knight because, well, it doesn't add to percentages. I had found out after the fight, because you're still at 16%. So with no charms, no real anything, it's time to break the chains that are holding him up and get on with the fight. And, well, let me just tell you, I really wish that Seal of Binding was not shielding him. Because, man, it would be really nice if it wasn't and I could just put on some preemptive damage before he popped out of those chains. But, you know, stuff has to happen. But as we take on the Hollow Knight, oh dear, let me tell you, this is not a fun boss fight when you can barely deal any damage. Best thing I can recommend is try and stay close to him and watch his movements. Heal up when you can. Heal up only when he goes down, which, trust me, he's gonna have to do a lot in this fight before you even get to the point where he starts stabbing himself, trying to help you kill him. So yeah, but his attacks are fairly slow. So if you have fought Grim, his fighting style is a lot similar to his, surprisingly. He'll dash at you, he'll do his 3-chain strike, and eventually he'll like go down where you can at least get 2 health back before he can get back on his feet. And me running into him like an idiot. But as the fight continuously goes on, slowly but surely I start getting his pattern read, so I die less. But this was probably the one most difficult fight in the game. More difficult than the Watcher Knight, more difficult than Umu, but he is technically the final boss. And I had died many a time. So yeah, it just continues like that, I guess. Still, after failing multiple times facing off against the Hollow Knight, after enough tries, eventually you start getting his pattern down, how to dodge and what you need to do, so slowly but surely you can dodge his attacks with no problem. You may still get hit here and there, like I did, but at the same time, once you get his patterns down, and how to read his attacks no matter what it is he's doing, you slowly just stop taking damage, so you can get him on the ground like it's nothing. It's definitely gonna take a while, and he's gonna hit the ground a bunch of times before you can get anywhere close to the end of this fight, but slowly but surely, he eventually does get to that point where it's just... yeah. But you better be ready for the long haul, because this fight could take upward of 5 to 10 minutes of just straight fight. Having to dodge, keep up with his patterns. So this is something that you gotta keep up, like a consistent going at it. You can't slack off, because the second you do, he will be on your ass, taking you down. So you gotta be prepared to give it everything you got. So once you slow down and think it's over, that's where he's gonna basically tell you, no, try again, and you'll have to restart from the beginning. At least that's how I see it. So yeah, just be prepared for a long fight. Don't let your guard up, and if you must take a break in the middle of it, just pause somewhere where you'll be safe or when he's on the ground, and then get yourself back into that pattern reading as quickly as you can, because trust me, it is going to be a long fight. But slowly but surely we do take him down again and again, and eventually it gets to the point where he starts jamming that nail through him. And once that starts happening, you know you're getting close to the end of the fight. But as he continues to do that, dealing more damage to himself, we slowly but surely get to the end of this fight. And with that out of the way, we get to his insanity mode. Seriously, even though I'm dodging this like relative ease, like how are they to expect you to dodge that? But slowly but surely, we do whittle his health down, even though we can't do much damage to him. But eventually we do get him down to that point where we get to take him down for good and get to finish the game off. He just has a few hits left. But it does get to the point of dodging where it gets a little bit ridiculous. Alright, we're just about out of the way here. Just a little bit more to go. He's on the ground. And even though this is my final attempt, I did get really close to biting it. But you just gotta be patient, be careful, and try to keep up with everything he's doing. And eventually, you will take him down. It just takes some time to get it done. But as I have finally managed it, after a long fight, we're finally able to absorb the infection's energy out of him. And and take it for ourselves. And yeah, that's pretty much all there really is to this challenge. Like I said before, there are probably a few things that you can try, which I'm definitely going to test out in the future, and probably post another video to see if I can get a lower percent than what I did manage. And then we get the cutscene of being the Hollow Knight. But yeah, this is honestly a very, very fun challenge, because honestly, it's like with the bindings that you could put on in the Pantheon and the Hall of the Gods, because I have tried out a few of those since I've last played the game, but still, this is a very interesting challenge, because it's kind of like, well, you're only really in it for taking out the Dreamers and taking out the Hollow Knight, because that's what you're there to do. So, of course, you're just gonna go for as little as you need. You're not gonna explore the world, not really gonna talk to people, you're not gonna need a map. Still, though, it was a very interesting and fun challenge. I highly recommend you guys give it a shot, because honestly, testing the waters of how weak you can be fighting like the final boss, or even any of the bosses, because honestly, this was just insanity mode. Or if you really want to test it out, don't go through the entire game and don't even like bother upgrading like your nail or any of your spells, and try to go for like 100% until you get to like having beaten the final boss, and then go for it. Now, that would be interesting, but also would kind of shoot this point of the challenge up in the ass, because this was a low percent run, so I got to get through as little of the game as possible while collecting as little as possible. But this was, to me, it was a fairly difficult challenge. Some of the bosses early on, such as Hornet and the False Knight, didn't give me trouble, but eventually I had to get to that point with like the Hollow Knight and the Watcher Knights that were like basically kicking me in the ass for multiple hours, because it took me about 3 hours to beat, not really 3 hours, it took me about 2 hours to beat the Hollow Knight across a couple of days, maybe an hour and a half, and about another hour to beat the Watcher Knight of just constantly giving me a shot. Now, there is a chandelier you can actually knock down in a secret path before you fight the Watcher Knight, so you only have to fight 5 instead of 6, but I took all 6 of them down because I didn't know about that until after the fight. Which kind of sucks, honestly. But still, it's not like you can't do it. It's just really hard to manage with like a weak nail and 5 health. But if you manage, you manage. That's kind of how it goes. Still though, I hope you guys enjoyed watching me go through the challenge, and I highly recommend you give it a shot yourself. But until then, yeah. I will see you guys in the next episode, or in the next challenge, but I do really hope you guys enjoyed this one. So, I will see you all then. Later.